Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, the #1 source for proven solutions to all your marketing challenges.
Today's guest is a powerhouse entrepreneur, a business strategist, and the founder of the Business Accelerator Institute, a results-driven platform dedicated to helping entrepreneurs break through barriers, scale faster, and turn ideas into income. He's on a mission to help business owners stop playing small and start building sustainable, scalable businesses with systems, strategy, and execution. He's worked with coaches, consultants, small business owners, and corporate leaders, showing them how to accelerate their growth using battle-tested frameworks designed to get real results. He's the man behind Perseverance Squared. And if you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're leaving money on the table, today's conversation is exactly what you need. Get ready for some high-level insights, tactical advice, and some truth bombs that might just shift your entire mindset. Let's welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, Mr. James Brown, founder of the Business Accelerator Institute.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. Wow, what an intro. I am so excited to be here.
Cool. Me too. I'm excited to have you. Excited to hear about your Business Institute and how that came about. So why don't we go there? Give us a little elevator pitch about your background and how you got to the point where you launched this Business Accelerator Institute.
Yeah, so I'm a recovering lawyer. I had kind of an unorthodox path to getting to lawyer, and to make it a small story, I got married at 19, kicked out of the house because I was getting married at 19. So I worked at General Motors on the assembly line for 11 years while I went to undergrad and law school. I got a business degree and then my law degree. And then when I was taking the bar exam, the General Motors announced they were going to close the plant. So I sent out 200 resumes and got 0 responses. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have hired me either, but it forced me to start my own firm. And at the time I had a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, this is burn the ships. We don't have a plan B. We're going to make this work. And during the first part of that business, that venture, we struggled just like any new entrepreneur, any new business owner, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I tried to do is just copy what everybody else was doing. I looked at the marketing, I looked at things, and I heard from other people. I'm like, I'm just going to copy that. And here's the funny thing is, when you copy mediocre stuff, you get mediocre results. And so I started studying the human buying process and what makes people take action. And I made some changes in my business. And at the time, I was signing maybe around 3 clients a week. And when I put this change in place, the first week I ran these new advertisements, we signed 68 clients in a week. The next week was 72, the next week was 63, and then it was like, oh my goodness, right? And so what do we do now? Well, our factory, we had to think about that. How is that going to handle the work? What people do we need to hire? Fast forward, and then 2 years later, I opened another office in Detroit, Michigan, and then a second office in Kansas City, Missouri, and then another office in Miami, Florida, and eventually built that business to about $8 million a year. One thing I learned, Marco, along the way was practicing law was just a vehicle to get there. And I loved building businesses. I really couldn't care less if I was practicing law or not. And my kids weren't interested in law school, so my end game was always sell the firm. So I sold it in 2014, and then I went on a mission to help other small business owners grow their business in a very predictable, reliable, profitable way. And one of the things I discovered along the way is that all businesses have the same 7 working parts. You've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got your factory that produces what you sell, you've got your people that run the factory, you have your physical plant, which could be either a brick and mortar location or virtual, you have money and metrics, and then the last part of the business is you, the business owner. Now, the only thing that's really different is what we sell. I sold legal services. Now I sell consulting services. I have
I'm going to back you up a
clients.
minute. Let me
Yeah.
interrupt and back up because I was jotting down, I missed one of them. So it's marketing, sales, factory, physical plant, money metrics. I missed one in there.
Yep. People is in between factory and physical plant. So you
Okay.
have to have the people that are going to run your factory.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Sorry.
so every business has that same structure. It's just we sell something different.
Right.
And so when you start to look at your business that way, now you can put together a plan that how am I going to get from where I'm at today to where I want to go? And exactly what does that look like? And so one of the fundamental things I do with people first is put that business plan together. I just spoke with a brand new lead last night that came through LinkedIn, and I said, "What what do you want from your business?" And he said, "I don't know. I've never thought about it." And I said, "Well, we're going to start thinking about it because we need to start there to develop a plan on how we're going to get there. And that business plan is going to address all 7 parts of your business." And when you see how those things are tied together, then it makes a lot of sense on what do I need to do next in my business. If I launch a new marketing campaign and all of a sudden we got a bunch of leads and we have a bunch of appointments and we're making a bunch of sales, how are we going to fulfill those sales and what people are we going to need to produce it? When do we need to hire them? So if we need to hire them in August, when should we start recruiting them? Right? And all of that is kind of spelled out. And if you follow the plan, you will scale your business in a profitable way.
You talk a lot about breaking through barriers in business. What are some of the most common roadblocks do you see holding entrepreneurs back?
It's what's between their 2 ears. Most of the time, it really is. In studying the human buying behavior, I started learning about the subconscious mind. And as a human being, our subconscious mind is formed before we're 7 years old. And those things stick with you for the rest of your life. And so it turns into you have certain limiting beliefs based on an experience you went through or something you saw your parents go through or something like that. When you have limiting beliefs, it creates a fear to try something. Another common roadblock that I see is what's called a terror barrier, right? Our mind, our brain is designed to keep the body safe. When we go to move into something that is uncomfortable for us, which usually equates to something that's new and unknown, the brain kicks in going, whoa, 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 wait a second, hold on. You're going into uncharted territory. Are you sure you want to do this? I call those terror barriers. It's so funny, Marco, because even after 20 years of practicing law, every time I got ready to go to court, and I didn't go that much because I had other people that did it, but when I would go to court, I would physically get sick to my stomach because all my peers were going to be there. And I thought that what I said was going to be stupid, right? Why? Because I was always taught when I was growing up that I'm not good enough. And so that was in my mind. So, but when I stepped back and I said, is this real or is this an illusion? And what I found most of the time was it was an illusion. I couldn't remember the last time I lost an argument in court. But the illusion of I'm not good enough was a terror barrier keeping me from succeeding. And so a
Hmm.
lot of times that is the biggest roadblock for an entrepreneur, is overcoming the terror barriers, the mindset issues.
Wow. Yeah, we all have our predetermined limitations that have got to us over time. And whatever you believe to be true is true. When you tell yourself, I can't do that, well, guess what? You're right. You can't. You got to choose the
Exactly.
words you use, etc. I've got more questions for you next on strategy, systems, and growth. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
You just heard from our main sponsor, marketingboost.com. Folks, I've been an internet marketer since 1996, before Google, Facebook, etc. And I tell you what, if you're looking for ways to wow, surprise, and delight your clients, you got to check out marketingboost.com. I'm biased. I owned and founded the company, but hey, we make it easy for you to reward your clients with powerful incentives that you can offer affordably to help them take whatever your call to action is. We'll talk more about that later, but check out marketingboost.com when the show's over, and we'll right back here with James Brown talking about how to build your business and how to learn more from the Business Accelerator Institute. Uh, James, what kind of law did you practice, and what was your firm practicing at the time?
Yeah, I did consumer bankruptcy work. And I think that I really developed the interest in that when I worked for those 11 years at General Motors, because I saw the layoffs that happened and things like that, and bad things happening to good people that were through no fault of their own. And so I wanted to be that voice to level the playing field with the giant credit industry. And so that's why I launched the consumer bankruptcy firm.
And what was just to kind of go back in history out of
Mhm.
curiosity, that story of a one switch in marketing and ad strategy filled your pipeline of clients, probably more than you were prepared to fulfill at the time with that big of a jump. So, what was I mean, I don't need you to explain the entire ad campaign, but I mean, what was
Mhm.
the science about it? Or what was the big difference that made that big of an impact?
The biggest difference was targeting the pain points, the things that keeps them up at night. Um, when we all have a logical side of our brain, we all have an emotional side of our brain. And one of the things I learned is that we make decisions on the emotional side of our brain. Now, some people will argue against that and say, no, I make logical decisions, rational decisions. We really don't. We make it emotionally, and then immediately it passes it to the logical side of the brain. And that's where buyer's remorse lives. And I hope you made the right choice. Again, that's the brain trying to keep us safe. Um, Most marketing that's out there, specifically like branding style marketing, it's effective, but it appeals mostly to the logical side of the brain. And so when I looked at all the law firms and they're all saying, my name is so and so, and I've been practicing 20 plus years, and I can help you get out of debt. It's appealing to the logical side of the brain. And when I first started, like I said, I copied everybody, so I was just doing the same thing, and I was getting the same results. So I started asking people when they came in, what brought you in? And they're like, well, I got a foreclosure notice. Okay. How does that foreclosure notice affect you? And they start rattling off. I'm going to lose the roof over my head. I don't know where we would go. My wife doesn't even know we're behind in house payments. I'd have to pull my kids out of school and they'd have to leave their friends. And I'm like, that's what's keeping this guy up at night. So how do I enter the conversation that's going on in their head? So I ran an ad that said, are you about to lose your home and can't tell your family you're going to live on the street? And that one switch flipped the switch with the number of people that said, I want more info. And that's all marketing is designed to do, is get people, enter the conversation going on in their head, get them to raise their hand and ask for more info.
Makes a lot of sense. In other words, hit the pain point. What's in it for me versus uh, once they start looking, it's a whole yeah. Then you need that logical step as well. To, why would I choose your firm versus the other? But you were getting them to reach out before they'd even start looking for help. They don't even know they need a lawyer might be able to solve their issue. They just start sticking their head in the sand or whatever. So good point. Strategy for systems and growth. What
Mm-hmm.
are you, in your opinion, are the non-negotiable systems, so to speak, that every small business owner needs to have in place if they intend to scale?
Well, I think it starts with when I look at if I have a business that has no systems at all, the very first ones that I want to start with are liability. What's going to cause the owner of that business potential liability? And what systems do we have in place to make sure that doesn't happen? It could be how we communicate with our customers. Lack of communications a lot of times is the number one reason for complaints. Then you get bad reviews, then it spirals from there. So what can, or if for lawyers, if I made a mistake, what might lead to a bar complaint or a malpractice suit? So those are the first systems that I put in place, and that can apply to any business. The next set of systems that I think is priority would be money in. What systems do we have from the point from marketing to our intake team to set us up a sales conversation to sales to how do we get the money in? How do we prevent AR? How do we maximize the dollars that we're spending? Those are the two most important things. From there, then it's workflow. What happens from A to B. And what I'm trying to do, I always look at McDonald's as the example of systems. And if anybody's ever seen the movie The Founder, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But they literally went on a tennis court and drew out the picture of the what do you call it, the floor plan of a McDonald's, and they had their staff out there fake working and running into each other, and then they would erase it on the ground and redraw it. And so that's how they just started developing their systems. And if you think about a McDonald's, it doesn't matter what 16-year-old is working, that cheeseburger tastes the same. Right. And so they've got the systems in place, no matter what location, no matter where it's at, it's going to taste the same. And so when we build systems, I want to make sure that whatever it is that's in our process of our factory is done the same way every time, and everybody knows who's responsible for what. And now I can plug people into the system, and I just bought myself as the owner my time back, because now I have a system that runs this and I don't have to be involved in that. And then I cross-train people so that if Joey calls in sick today, Sarah automatically fills in and my system doesn't change. A lot of people will hire people and have the people run the business, and that's never a good thing. You might have a key employee that's been working for you for 20 years and they've got everything in their head, and then they quit. Right now it's like, now what? Right. But if you build systems and then you plug people into the system, it doesn't matter if somebody quits. We're going to have somebody else that can go right into working the system.
Great point there. And on that subject, I didn't want to take a break this soon, but you've got to hear from our business automation booster. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Is your business on autopilot yet? Do you have automation in place to capture, nurture, and convert prospects into clients via email, SMS, ringless voicemails, appointment setting? Get all the inbound and outbound marketing tools in one place. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on automating your business so you can make money while you sleep.
We were talking about systems just a moment ago. And if you're in business and don't have a CRM platform that helps you automate and nurture your leads as they come through the door, do you have workflows? As James was talking about, do you have systems that others can plug and play with? Do you have email sequencing that kick off automatically, text messages, ringless voicemails to follow up with your clients, get them taking the next steps you need them to take? Then check out automationbooster.com. It's the most affordable platform that helps you with all your inbound and outbound marketing tools, including over 100 different sales funnel templates that include the Marketing Boost incentives to give you ideas how to plug in an incentive where in your workflow to get people to fill your calendars, get your salespeople filled with prospects to talk to. All of that's available in an easy platform. We help you through it with live chat support 7 days a week. Check out automationbooster.com. James, we're back here with you, and we're talking about what you need. And let's take a minute and share I'm going to share my screen and show the Business Accelerator platform real quick here. Tell us when and how that came about, when you decided to
Yeah, it's
launch.
it's an interesting question, Marco, because one of the things that I realized when I started going into consulting, it was a lot of one-on-one. And I realized that I can only do so much. There's only so many hours in the day. Plus, I'm 60, I'll be 60 years old in 2 weeks. I don't necessarily want to work with everybody. So Perseverance Squared was my initial launched business, and that's where I do one-on-one coaching with business owners. But I knew that I could only scale that so far. I worked with 18 businesses one-on-one. And so I said, how do I help more people? Because my goal in life has always been to expand the number of people we help. And so Business Accelerator Institute was born out of that. And what I'm basically doing is creating a very structured system of online courses and group calls and workshops and webinars that will help the business owner get to the point they need to get, but not necessarily spend for the one-on-one coaching. Right. And so I've got 58 courses that are planned right now. The initial course is how do you put a business plan together, in 5 weeks to launch? What do we got to do to put that together? Then I'm going to have level 100, level 200, level 300 courses. And at each level, think of it like a college course catalog. There will be a course on each of the 7 parts of the business. So there'll be a marketing 101, there will be a sales 101, there'll be mindset 101, and then you move up as you grow your business. Group calls, we're going to have, we have open office hours every Wednesday. So that's my opportunity to allow people who can't necessarily work with me one-on-one to come to an open Zoom room for 2 hours and just ask questions. Hey, I've got this going on in my business. What should I do? And then, creating individualized workshops. We have a business plan workshop, we have a marketing plan workshop, and we have a budget workshop every October, November, and December, so that we're planning for the next year. And so that's how Business Accelerator Institute kind of evolved. And it's something that's going to continue to be growing and adding opportunities for people to really scale their business. Another thing we do in Business Accelerator Institute is there's mastermind groups that I run. So we meet 4 times a year, 3 in-person events, 1 virtual, and it's usually 10 to 12 businesses in the room. And we're just working on those problems that those businesses have. They'll each have like a 2-hour hot seat and talk about the struggles they have and get collective advice from like-minded entrepreneurs in the room.
Super powerful. Folks, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, we're at businessaccelerator.institute, Business Accelerator Institute to find that. In the show notes, we've got all the links to this you can go to later. Before you run off and check out that, we'll off to a couple more questions that we've got for you. So when it comes to these mastermind events, those have always been something that a lot of what you do is work that I have always dreamed of doing, but don't haven't wanted to work that hard. So to me, it seems that what you do is, it is like what we do with Marketing Boost. We serve thousands of business owners, and it's kind of a self-serve platform. Not
Mhm.
a whole lot of, we're by the way, we're only $37 a month. So it's so affordable that anybody can use our incentives, but we don't do deep dive hand holding and coaching and masterminds and what have you as of yet, because it's just, at least in my business model or my business plan, I haven't wanted to work that hard. So I rely on people like you to step up and help entrepreneurs go the next step. Uh, how many of how do those come about? When you decided to start doing masterminds and having those events like that, seems like again, a lot of work, but I can see the benefits that you're providing business owners with that.
Yeah, Marco, and I think it came about because of I can't clone myself. So in order to really scale and help more people, we have to find opportunities where it's a one to many situation. So we talk about the amount of work. I have 18 businesses that I work with one on one. So I'm on a call with them for an hour each week. So basically, my coaching business is about 18 to 20 hours a week. That's it. Um, then the mastermind meetings, it's once a quarter. We have 4 groups right now. So it's basically a week, a quarter that we'll choose a location. We were just in Sedona, Arizona. And on Monday and Tuesday, it might be group one. On Wednesday and Thursdays, group two. On Friday and Saturday is group three,
Oh,
and so forth. So,
you kind of bang them
yep,
all out in one week. So that way
yep.
you've
So
got,
I'm there for the week, but then everybody comes in for their 2 days.
wow, smart. So again, you organize things in a powerful way. If someone was listening and wants to get unstuck and start growing their business faster, what's one action step? I mean, obviously they can come join the Business Accelerator and hire you as a coach or what have you. But what uh, what would be some ideas that their business could use, an action step they could take today to start creating momentum?
Yeah. I think the first thing, Marco, is really getting clear on what you want. Like I asked people, like the gentleman yesterday, what do you want from your business? And he was like, I don't know. I've never looked at it that way. And so I always start with the owner. What is it? What is that life that you want to live that you're hoping the business will give you? So let's say, for example, that I'm making $100,000 a year right now, and I have a business. I personally, to live the life I want to live, I want to take some more vacations. I want to take time away. I don't want to be stuck in the business. I want to buy a second house down on the beach. What is that life going to cost me? And so let's say it costs me 300,000 a year to do that. Okay, fine. So what is the net margin in your business presently? So let's say that the net margin in the business is 25%. Okay, so if you personally want to make 300,000, then that business needs to gross 1.2 million next year for you to pull 300,000 out of it. So now we have a revenue goal for the business. Next thing I ask them is, what's your average sale value? And a different price, but let's say it's $5,000. Okay. Well, we know you need 225 sales or somewhere around there next year in order to gross 1.2 million so that you can pull out 300,000 so that you can live the life you want to live. So how are we going to do 225 sales? Next, we determine the number of leads you need based on your conversion rates. Now, how are we going to get those leads, right? So starting with knowing what you want as the business owner allows you to really start focusing on this is what I need to do next. And it's very methodical, it's very predictable, it's very reliable when you do it that way.
And then you start planning out, okay, I need more leads. I'm going to need more salespeople to manage those leads, to convert those leads. They're going to have to follow these following systems, et cetera, in order to set it
Yeah.
all up into that flows that work. Um, in uh, in your years of coaching businesses and your businesses you've had yourself, not everybody uses incentive-based marketing. But have you
Mhm.
ever seen incentives for any of the business you've used to help generate more leads, close more sales? Have you seen creative ways businesses can use promotions or bonuses to drive traffic, conversions, sales, et cetera?
Absolutely. Number one, I believe that the sale of anything is just an exchange of value. So the more value that you bring, the more sales you're going to make, right? If this water bottle right here, I paid $40 for this water bottle. A lot of people would be go, "You're crazy. Why'd you pay $40 for a water bottle?" Well, at the time, I had just been hospitalized for dehydration and wasn't drinking enough. And I was doing this long 3-day conference. And then my wife bought this water bottle and said, "You keep it with you." So to me, it was worth the $40. So I'm going to pay the money. When the value of what we're looking at outweighs or when the value outweighs the money that they're asking for, we're going to give you the money. Okay. So when you use incentive based marketing, when you can add things to your call to action, you're increasing the value proposition right off the bat. You're also differentiating yourself from every other competitor that's out there. And that's one of the important things to do right at the front, because if I'm marketing to the general public, they don't know me, like me, or trust me. So when they do a search for solving X problem, there's thousands of options that show up. So how do they know which one to choose? And that's a problem because the human brain gets confused. There's all of the options look the same. I don't know what to do. So the default is lowest price. So what can we do to stand out? One of those things is change your marketing message up like I did. Another thing is use marketing incentives that will stand out over everything else that your competition is doing. So I believe in anything that we can do to increase our value proposition so that by the time they sit down with my salesperson, they've already arrived at the conclusion that I would have to be stupid to do business with anybody else. I don't care how much you charge.
And that was going to be, how do you coach your clients on pricing their packages, their services, their products, um, and dealing with competition and people racing to the bottom for price?
Yeah, one of the things I let them know right off the bat is competing on price is just a race to the bottom of the barrel. As soon as you lower price, then the next guy is going to lower it even more. And so the one way we do this is I was the most expensive bankruptcy guy in town, but I filed probably 6 to 7 times more cases than anybody else in this district, even though I was the highest price. Why? Because people saw the value, and it started with that marketing message, where it's like, oh my gosh, these guys stand out. I want to know more from them. And then our intake script was different than anywhere they've ever seen. And then they got an email sequence that gave them useful tips, whether they decided to hire us or not. And so then by the time I quoted them my price, I had some people would say, "Man, you're higher than the guy down the street." And I would say, "Yes, I am." You have to ask yourself, look, we're not a bargain basement law firm, and I suspect you're not looking for bargain basement results. If you are, then this isn't the place for you. And I'm okay with letting that person go. But I'm going to drive in enough people that see the value in what we do that are willing to pay our price so that I'm not dealing with DNF clients. I'm dealing with my A plus and B clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so my mind's filled with ideas and questions for you. Let me ask you this: how important do you see, and how do you coach businesses on generating testimonials and reviews? How big is how important is that for the typical business owner?
I think it's very important. And here's where it comes in, Marco. Remember I said earlier about the emotional side and the logical side of the brain? Um, when you see a marketing message that enters the conversation and you make a decision, I think this is the right one for me. The logical side of the brain kicks in and starts looking for justification for the decision. Testimonials are a great way to appeal to that logical side of the brain. So one of the things I do, like for example, if somebody comes to, if they see my ad for Business Accelerator Institute, it might say, are you working 70+ hour weeks in your business and struggling to see your family? If so, click here to learn more how to change your future. They click on it and they go to a landing page. And I continue that conversation about the pain points they have. And then halfway through, I'm going to say, but there is another way to do this, a way that you don't know because you just don't know. But here's what some of my clients have said about working with us and how it changed their lives. Now I put those testimonials in there because it's social proof that appeals to the logical side of the brain. And now they're like, oh my gosh, look at what all these people say about this guy. I want to work with him. And so it helps them again, it gives them that justification. Now, I personally wouldn't lead with testimonials in my marketing. It would come after I enter the conversation going on in their head.
After they have interest in your product or service.
Yes.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, I want to tell a little story here, guys, how Marketing Boost was born, how we came about. We were operating a travel website and we were just dreaming of only we had video testimonials from our clients. We were selling gorgeous five-star resorts and hotels around the world, and we couldn't get anybody. And we just thought, we knew if we only had video reviews from these people while they were at the resort, while they were on the beaches of these beautiful resorts, if they were bragging about the hotel brand and ours, we would be able to leverage those into thousands of more sales. But we couldn't get anybody to go that extra mile of giving us a review. We came up with an idea. And by the way, I coach on this to this day to businesses. And that is we would do a survey the day after they checked into the hotel, when they were at their peak of happiness. That's the lesson here. When your clients is at their peak of happiness, that's when you want to solicit a review. So we'd send them an email and text and say, hey, how's the hotel living up to your expectation? How's the hotel? How's our service been so far? If they gave us a 4 or 5, those were the ones that we would then say, would you do us a huge favor and help us? If you'd film a selfie testimonial video from the beach, pool, or bar, we'll give you a complimentary hotel stay on us, a bonus trip for the video review. Well, guess what? Within days, we started having hundreds of these video reviews coming in, and it gave us exactly what we needed to leverage on our website. But we had to turn the whole campaign off because it was getting expensive to fulfill those 3 nights we were giving away to people. So we went back to our hotel partners and solicited access to. Make a long story short, we convinced these hotels we were working with in Orlando and Vegas, if they'd give us their empty rooms that were otherwise going to sit empty, we'd fill them with bodies, warm couples that might spend money at the bar, restaurant, pool, casino, excursion desk, restaurants, etc. And sure enough, we got access to some inventory. Now we could go back to giving away certificates, giving away our own complimentary hotel stays. Well, that was the birth of what eventually became marketingboost.com. And today, our newest product, trustbyreviews.com. We have built a platform to help you solicit reviews and promote. Once you get their honest opinion of your product or service, Trust by Reviews helps you encourage your clients to post those reviews on multiple third-party review sites. Post it on Trustpilot, SiteJabber, Google, Facebook, Yelp, wherever you need them. Over 200 platforms will help you push these reviews to, so that you can be nonstop soliciting reviews and pushing them to third-party review sites, kind of forcing Google and Bing and Yahoo to push you up in the search rankings when they look for your brand or business because of the reviews coming in. So check out Trust by. Long story to get to why you need to check out Marketing Boost, and now our newest exciting product, trustbyreviews.com, that can help you keep a constant flow of ongoing reviews and help you manage your online reputation. Check out Trust by Reviews. James, sorry for the little biased pitch there on,
No worries.
but
And as you said that, Marco, I had a smile on my face because that's exactly what I tell people is look at the happiest day of your customer relationship. And sometimes it's multiple happy days. And those are the perfect times to ask for those reviews, to ask for testimonials. You can also, like you started giving away certificates and things. I have businesses run a monthly contest where they give away things like that in order to build reviews and build testimonials. And, so it's very, very, very similar concept. So you made me smile with that one.
absolutely. And again, if you're not soliciting reviews, first of all, you're never going to have 100% of your clients happy, right? So,
Mm-mm.
and the more business volume you're doing, the bigger business you are, the more clients you have, the more likely you are to get positive and negative reviews. Sooner or later, somebody might not be perfectly happy with what you had. Now, who's most likely going to post a review? Well, if you're not soliciting them, the only ones that are likely going to post something are the ones that are not happy.
Correct.
Everybody expects to be happy with your business, but when they're not happy, boy, they want to tell everybody. They want to go put it on Google, Facebook, everywhere they can think of if they're not happy, especially if they're very upset at something. So the only way to conquer that is to solicit reviews from everybody and really promote the ones that are happy with you, but make those evangelists for your brand and get them to help hopefully spread the word on multiple platforms. And boom, you're off to successes with ongoing flow of constant reviews, which is needed in almost any business. Um, if you were having dinner with an entrepreneur or a business leader, alive or dead, who would you want to have that dinner with, and why, might I ask you, James?
I think that this could be a controversial choice, but I think that right now my choice would be Elon Musk. Um, just because I think he has a very also unorthodox approach to where he got to where he is today. And I would love to learn more about that. To me, I want to surround myself with people that are much, much, much smarter at what they do than I am. Because that's where I learned the most. That's where the concept of the mastermind meetings comes out of, is surround yourself with the people who have been where you want to go, and what can you learn from them? So I think that, um, Elon right now, separate what's going on, with the administration, but the business lessons that he has learned along the way to be the richest man in the world.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I would want to know more about, or even somebody like Jeff Bezos, or, who started in his garage. And now you've got, Amazon putting malls out of businesses and now soon to be watch grocery stores and things like that. So those are two people that I would love to have a lunch with and a conversation with.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool? Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choices there. So here's another question I have for you: that what, with the clients you've had and people you've reached out to in business, do you find imposter syndrome something that people have fear of? Like you mentioned yourself when you were walking on that stage in court, and is with all your background, all your experience, when it was your turn to be on stage in court, you had your fears and doubts. How do you coach people through that fear, doubt of what I call imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and I think I coached most of them through it, and I have had that myself. That was just one example. Um, but what I when I think that's a terror barrier. It's a story that we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, that we're not $1 million, $2 million, $5 million business owner. I'm not somebody who should be able to be up here and be an expert. It's a story we tell ourselves because we're moving into areas that we're uncomfortable in. And so when we start to tell ourselves that story, I'm just an imposter. The best way I found to overcome that is to take that step back and look at the facts. Is this just an illusion? Is it a story you're telling yourself, or is it based in fact that I am not good enough to run this business, that I don't have enough experience to teach now 450 plus successful business owners how to run and operate a profitable business? When I look at the facts, absolutely, it's a terror barrier and it's just an illusion. And when I look at it that way, now I can bust right through it and move on because I don't buy into that BS.
You got to sell yourself first, and build your own resume to sell yourself.
You do.
Absolutely. So, is there a book or podcast or mentor that changed your life that you'd recommend others go and uh, dig into?
Yeah, I think on the just on the drive and the business side of it, I love the Think and Grow Rich book. I always use that quote, that don't quit when you're 3 feet from gold. In that book, it talked about that, and this guy who put everything on the line and all of his life savings back in the gold rush days and bought a stake and dug it for years and finally quit and sold it for a pittance of what he paid, and he was only 3 feet from the largest gold vein in history.
Wow.
um, and so that I keep that story in my mind about whenever I want to quit, that no, I'm only 3 feet from gold. Let's go. It's why I called the first business Perseverance Squared. I actually have it tattooed on my arm right here. Um, because I'm not going to quit 3 feet from gold. So that's one of the key books. I think as far as marketing goes, Dan Kennedy books are a great foundation when you talk about direct response marketing and pain points and things like that. Another really, really good book is it's called Energy Leadership by Bruce Schneider. And it taught me about the different energy levels that people show up in. And it's one of the reasons why when I get on a call with a business owner, the very first thing I ask them is, how's things going? And I want to see what their energy level is. And somebody who says, oh, um, it's not going well right now. The current administration is causing havoc and it's affecting me, and there's nothing I can do about it. They're in level one energy, and that's what I call the victim energy. It's what Bruce Schneider calls victim energy. And when you're in that energy level, if you don't break out of it, you're not going to move forward. And so that's why I asked that question. And if I have somebody that says something like that to me, my response is number one, to get them angry. That's level two. And then levels 3, 4, and 5 are where you start to get creative. Okay. But if I can't get them out of victim mode, they're not going to get creative. So I literally will say, why in the F are you tolerating that? You're the owner of this business. The administration doesn't affect your business. You control your destiny. There's things you can do. Why are you tolerating this? And people will say, you know what? You're exactly right. I don't know why I'm tolerating this. I know I just moved them from level 1 to level 2. And now I'm going to say, so what are we going to do about it? Let's brainstorm right now. And then they get into level 3, 4, and 5, and we have a very productive session. So Energy Leadership by Bruce Schneider is a great book about
Thank you. I have not read that, and we'll be looking at that. Uh, we'll put those in the show notes as well on where to get some of that stuff. So, has there been a mistake in your business over the years, or businesses, that at the time seemed like a huge mistake and maybe turned into a blessing afterwards? Does anything like that ring a bell that you can share with us?
Yeah, Marco, there's so many mistakes, because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody that I leaned on. And I made a lot of emotional decisions in my business. Um, and so one of the things, I mean, I tell people now, I've made more mistakes than you've even thought of. And one of the ones that I can say that I learned a big lesson was when you're making decisions in your business, base those decisions on data, not on gut feeling or emotion. So I had an attorney that worked for me and he wasn't getting his work done. He was always 3 or 4 days behind. Everybody else was always up to date. And I went in and I asked him, um, what's going on? Why are you behind? He said, well, I'm constantly on the phone. I've got incoming calls, I'm making outgoing calls, and I can't get to my work. I left his office and went over to my office manager and I said, put an ad out for another attorney. And that's a $80,000 decision, right? And she said, why? And I said, because Joe is behind on his work every day because he's on the phone constantly. So I need somebody that's going to come in and help out so we can stay up to date on the work. And she just looked at me and she said, did you look at the phone records? And I was just silent. I'm like, no. And she said, don't you think you should? And I'm like, yes. So I go and look at the phone records. And the day before, he total minutes on the phone, incoming and outgoing, was 4 minutes and 32 seconds. I did this for about a week. And the amount of time that he was on the phone was never more than 6 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And I was about to make an $80,000 business decision based on gut feeling, emotion, without looking at the data. So that stuck with me from that moment on. Is I don't make decisions in my business unless I have the data available to make those decisions on. Right now, I'll talk to a business owner and I'll say, okay, so what's your conversion rates of your salespeople? Well, it's about this. I didn't ask you what it's about. That tells me you don't know what the number is. I think I didn't ask you what you think. I asked you what it is. You need to make decisions based on actual data, not what you think it is.
Right.
And so that lesson has stuck with me for all of these years.
James, that was gold. You've shared a whole lot of wisdom today about building real businesses with real systems and not just chasing shiny objects and overnight success stuff. For those listening who want to learn more, connect with you, or work with the Business Accelerator Institute, where should they go?
Yeah, we built out a landing page just for your listeners. So it's businessaccelerator.institute/marketing boost.
Very
And they
well.
can go to that and they will find any information they want on me and be able to connect with me or any of the resources that we have on the website.
Say that one more time.
It's businessaccelerator.institute and then /marketing boost.
Very well. And those links are in the show notes below. So, folks, you can go look right in the show notes and take action now. We'll be sure to include those links in the show notes. Uh, For our listeners, folks, if you're tired of playing small and ready to accelerate your results, connect with James and connect with the Business Accelerator Institute. This is Captain Marco Torres signing off, reminding you don't just build a business that creates freedom, impact, and the life you dream about. James, do you have any final words of wisdom for our community?
Oh, I think just for the community itself, stay out of your own head, right? You start thinking like the owner of a 1 million, 2 million, $5 million business and making decisions based on that. And when you start doing that, you will grow into that.
That's huge. If you like the content we brought you, folks, I ask huge favor of you. Give us a like, ask us any questions, or give us a comment below in the notes. And share this episode with somebody, another entrepreneur who's looking for solutions. Grab the link and share the Business Accelerator Institute's link and stuff with somebody who can benefit from this conversation we've had today. James, I thought it was powerful. A lot of value bombs here you gave us. So boom, thank you for everything. And folks, we'll see you on the next episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. Thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.